Okay, so now we will hear from the general manager, his management report.
Good afternoon, Chair Glynn, Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt, and Board of Directors. I thank you for the opportunity today to give a little update. We've done a tremendous amount of work over the last year, and it's important that we build upon it. And wanted to talk a little bit about the fiscal 25 year transportation investments, and thank you to the Governor, her administration, to the Secretary for the support. The proposed investments in our fiscal year 25 budget are really going to allow us to continue to build off of the successes of what we've just accomplished in 2023 and moving into 2024. Some of the key highlights that we've talked about, the ability to, as we just heard, really take the $5 million investment from fiscal year 24 on where we investigated and reviewed a low-income fare pilot program, and the ability to move into that. And right now we're in the middle of a public process, and that is a really huge thing, the $45 million that's proposed in this upcoming budget. We're really excited about that opportunity. And again, thank you very much for the feedback and the continued support of the T.
We'll be back.
Yes.
We're not going away, period.
The other key thing that, and we've heard a little bit about it as well, the focus on our capabilities internally, the operating side of the house, the proposed additional $127 million to the operating budget is really instrumental in terms of us allowing to continue to build off the progress that we've made in 2023, and we're really excited about that piece. And then, of course, the infrastructure needs, the disinvestment that has happened in the past, the proposal for an additional $300 million to support ongoing capital work, particularly the track improvement program. That is really instrumental in the foundation to be able to start restoring reliable service, ensuring safety, and giving the riders something to really look forward to in terms of not only a safe commute, safe travel, but something that they can rely on being, giving them more time in their day back, and also a shorter trip. Also had the ability then to discuss these different things and the importance of these proposals this past Tuesday in Bristol County to the legislative budget meeting, and we're excited about those opportunities. We talked about all the ongoing work, our need to ourselves, despite these significant investments in transportation, as a T to tighten up our own belts and to really find a way to make sure that we manage the dollars that were allotted, to make sure that we deliver capital projects in a meaningful way that is focused on results and the benefits to the public that we serve, not just how we spend money, but that we spend it wisely and properly. And that's why we're really invested and we're really excited about the opportunity to continue the dialogue about our budgetary needs, but we know we have our obligation to do that as well. But also knowing that the state has many competing challenges, one of the areas that we're very focused on is federal dollars, and how do we go about ensuring that we take advantage and pursue every federal dollar available to support state dollars that are afforded to us. At the end of January, we had an opportunity to visit DC and have many leadership discussions with USDOT Deputy Secretary Trottenberg, FRA Administrator Amit Bose, FTA Acting Administrator Veronica Vanterpool, at the time Deputy Administrator for FTA. We met with APTA, American Public Transportation Association. We had a chance to meet with our colleagues in WMATA, managing the metro system, National Governors Association of Infrastructure, and the White House Infrastructure Implementation Team. And a lot of those discussions focused on not only the things that we've been doing over the last year to improve performance, to improve deliverability, and to improve how we respond and address our needs across the system, delivering more reliable service, safe service, and winning back riders, but also the need to look at how the capital dollars are used, how we can deliver projects differently, citing some of the examples of where we've started to manage projects differently, and I think one of the ones we've talked about was Lynn Station and how we delivered that one, not only quicker, but more cost effectively. But we also wanted to talk about the operating needs and the need for federal government to invest in the operating side of the house to support those needs, because it's not just about us building new facilities, it's about us being able to maintain and operate that. And we also had an opportunity to talk about how do we better position ourselves to pursue and win federal grants. That kind of feedback is important. Talking with the industry and our colleagues across the country, everyone is facing these challenges in terms of operating deficits in future years. That's why we felt it very important to go to DC and have all these conversations and make sure that we're at the table as we seek to find ways to get the federal government to support our needs here and supplement everything that the state is doing for us. One of the other things that we had an opportunity, the following meeting, we were invited to the White House on a roundtable on clean bus manufacturing. And one of the key components of this is not only are we working to improve how the T themselves can be more environmentally friendly and reduce our carbon emission footprint, but the challenges that the industry has with regards to supporting the needs of all the agencies across the country. In particular, this roundtable was called because the manufacturing industry for the bus delivery is shrinking. The amount of manufacturers available are down to 2. And that is a challenge when every of the transit agencies are trying to procure and deliver and meet not only federal mandates but state mandates. The other component that was discussed is then how do we ensure that as we build out these new facilities, as we get new equipment, that the operating side is fully supported. And these were important discussions because not only was this something that the White House acknowledged, this is something that FTA was participating in, and all the transit CEOs that had an opportunity to participate were able to share openly with the 2 manufacturers that exist, Gillig and NewFlyer. It was a really robust, open dialogue. One thing that came out of this was a Dear Colleague letter from FTA, basically citing that there needs to be acknowledgement of transit agencies in terms of the challenges that these procurements have. So for instance, the bus contracts and the procurement, a lot of times the payments are at the end of the contract upon delivery. Puts a lot of risk on the manufacturers, which is why they're down to 2 manufacturers. And what FTA has said is, moving forward, grant applications will be prioritized based on agencies that collaborate and partner and pursue these manufacturing contracts with other transit agencies, minimize customization in the procurements, and then also include clauses that allow for advance payments, progress payments, and then payment adjustments in terms of price escalation. For instance, the bus industry talked about the tremendous amount of inflation that has hit them and that is causing a lot of the contracts that are ongoing to be really losing profits for them, which is why many of them are choosing not to pursue these things. And this is not just with bus manufacturing, but this is across many of the different manufacturing modes that we're seeing. Material prices are going up, material availability is less, and these costs are being borne by the manufacturers, and the FTA has basically said in the Dear Colleague letter, they're looking for agencies to be more flexible and understanding that there is price adjustments that are needed as part of these contracts. More dialogue on this, but I wanted to share that as we went here, this is an interesting dynamic that not only are we seeing, but all our transit partners across the country are seeing. I wanted to talk also, though, we have a tremendous amount of work ongoing in the system, and we're making tremendous progress. That came out of our meetings with FTA, where they're seeing that we are operating in a different manner, and we're improving. But on February 15th, I think we also know that we have a tremendous amount of work to be done. This feeder cable that affected the North Station substation on February 15th, as a result of the damage and the failure of that cable, we lost power across a significant part of our lines. On the left, you can see some images of these typical feeder cable splices that are done. And you can see on the top left picture, 3 cables being spliced together. And then further down, you can see how they're wrapped with insulation and ultimately the final product where they have a lead sheath on them. On the right, you can see the image of the damage actually in the manhole from that day. And on the far right are typical pictures of a manhole and these feeder cables within where they're spliced. Right now, the work is ongoing to repair that feeder cable. I'm pleased to say that the 6 remaining feeder cables are adequately providing the necessary power for us to operate. And the one thing that I did want to acknowledge, though, I know that there is never a good time for incidents of this nature. I know that we have a tremendous amount of work to do with rebuilding our infrastructure and our assets. And I know how this disruption impacted our riders that day. But I do want to acknowledge that within 20 minutes of this disruption, due to the hard effort and the improvements that we've made in our operational control center and those dispatchers and our transportation professionals in the field, given that we had no power and lost the signals, we did have traction power. And with that, those efforts, we were able to start moving trains again in 20 minutes. And within 30 minutes, the trains were moving across the system, albeit I know with the movement through manual control, it was not the same level that we would normally have. But the important piece is that once we were able to start moving trains, that enabled us to allow and ensure that the passengers that we had were safe, that the workers were safe. It really is a testament that we have made tremendous difference in how we operate and how we function over the last year. And I think that's an important distinction in terms of some of the things that are ongoing with the FTA SMI and concerns with how we were managing in the past. It's just something that I know, given the magnitude of the impacts, gets lost in that day's events. And I just felt it was important to acknowledge the hard work of the team.
So Bill, can you explain why it happened, though? I mean,
This cable, this feeder cable, my understanding is it's over 30 years old, Chair. This occurred at a splice in the manhole. Don't know specifically because the damage was extensive in that manhole. We do know that the cable, I believe, was inspected in 2022, after which that is within normal standards of every 5 years of inspection. Not all of the cable is exposed where it can be seen, but in the manhole it was. I know they've pulled cable. They're getting ready to reconnect the splices and finalize the work. But the extent of the damage makes it hard to determine what was the actual cause of this incident. The investigation is still ongoing. When we have more information, we'll share it. But it was over 30 years of age, this cable. Director?
GM, could water exposure accelerate the damage here?
I'd have to see in terms of what the condition was when it was last inspected. I have not gotten that information. I don't know if Ryan, you have any detail with regard to that?
Sure.
Brian Colan, Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So the lead splices that are depicted in these images, that type of splice would typically withstand any water. It could sit in still water if it had to. Humidity does play a role in how those types of infrastructure degrade over time. But that lead sheathing and that final coating is made to withstand that type of element. With the extent of the damage that was left, as a result, it's really tough to determine if moisture did play a role, just due to the nature of the damage within the manhole. But that typical splice that you see, that's made to withstand that type of moisture.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions on this? I did also want to talk about on February 21st, the Red Line train traction motor lead. That lead draws power from the third rail. And the traction motor is what's used to generate the power to accelerate and decelerate the trains You could see that the lead was damaged. That's what caused the smoke and the flames. I am pleased that the quick action of the crews who observed that. Once the power was shut off, the incident dissipated. The teams have gone back and looked at these particular cars. There are Type 2 cars from 1987. They did inspect the traction motors and the leads. It is not something that's system-wide. It is more related to this one motor. These were last overhauled in 2010. This just kind of reminds us that, again, we have many needs across our system. Rolling stock is one of them, and we're going to continue to focus on replacing these cars as new ones come in. But just wanted to touch base on this one. Again, hard work of the crew, being very observant and quick acting, and thankfully no one was injured in this. But this leads me to all of the efforts that are ongoing. On February 9th, I'm pleased to say, and some of this is in the consent agenda with regards to the reporting of the FTA SMI and the different statuses of all the different special directives. This one in particular, 22.4, cap number 7, we received a closure letter from FTA. And this one pertains to our assets, our knowledge of our assets, of the conditions, and the ability of the maintenance away team to ensure that management is aware of those assets. And that goes to not only having an understanding of their conditions, but helping us to better prioritize how to do the work, when to do the work, and that leads to how we've started to rebuild our infrastructure, tackling the track improvement program. I think some of the speed restriction reporting that is on the public website for the public to see is something that I know FTA looks at on a regular basis, but I also know that our own managers are using this information that we now have generated to be able to make better decisions, smarter decisions, and more timely decisions. And appreciate the FTA's support in terms of continuing to work with us on a regular basis as we go through these different initiatives, and also the hard work of the team to be able to develop this and have this cap closure. This is an important one. It demonstrates that we now have the ability to have the right tools in place. This team was acknowledged by its peers for the technology used to develop the reporting on our assets. So just wanted to highlight this one component of a cap closure, which is important because that helped us generate the track improvement program. That helped us to be able to lay out the plan on which areas to go first, which ones had the most needs, and which ones impacted the most riders. Right now, we're at the end of February. We have one more week to go on the green line closure that's ongoing from Copley to a number of the portals. But I want to report that that work is ongoing. It's on time. But I'd like to kind of go back in time real quickly to walk through how this track improvement program has begun. I just want to take a time back to September of last year. And if you go back, we have 36 miles of our system with speed restrictions, 26% of the track, and over 200 or 240 restrictions across the system. As you can see from the map, they're system-wide, unfortunately. But then following some work that we did on the Green Line extension, tackling some speed restrictions up there, you can see in the top portion where we highlighted the area of work, eliminating restrictions along that corridor. And then moving on to Ashmont and Mattapan that we did back in October of last year. And let me just go back real quickly. One slide. You can see the amount of restrictions that are on the Ashmont JFK corridor and the Mattapan corridor. Subsequent to that work, eliminating all of those restrictions. And I think that was the impetus to, or I know that was the impetus for us to really lay out now the track improvement program. The ability to go in and maximize the time to do the work, to give the crews the sufficient time to do the work properly and make it longer lasting was really the difference here. It allows us to do it more cost effectively and allows us to actually not only tackle the speed restriction itself, but to tackle beyond those locations in additional state of good repair that have left for 6 months or so would become speed restrictions again. And I think that's a key part of why the track improvement program was launched. Subsequently, we followed that with some of the areas along the trunk of the red line, lifting again more restrictions. And then we went to the D branch on the green line. And again, all of those restrictions were lifted as committed. Just kind of walking through where we are. We did some work in the tunnels, lifting restrictions as well. We piggybacked on the tunnel inspection and tunnel work. And then more recently, the Alewife to Harvard, eliminating, if I recall, 8 speed restrictions along that corridor. And then today, this is where we are right now, 129 speed restrictions compared to 240. And that area in the center of the green line will be addressed. And right now, I'm confident that we will be tackling, I believe it's 10 or 11 speed restrictions along that corridor, eliminating those on the green line. And then we would be going on to orange and then some very big work on the blue line in advance of upcoming summer work. I did want to say that part of that is about restoring reliability to our system, public trust, and I believe that will lead to ridership returning over time. And one of the reasons I use that is on the commuter rail side, and again, we really do value the workers and the folks that we heard earlier. You could see from this table, I showed this once before, the MBTA commuter rail has had the strongest return to ridership post-pandemic across the nation of all the commuter rails. And I think that's a testament to the effort that is ongoing at the commuter rail side of the T to ensure the infrastructure is in good condition. There's work still to be done there too, but that allows the schedules to be written to allow more certainty to the schedules as we improve frequency of the schedules. Ridership is using the commuter rail. You can see here across the many of our colleagues across the industry, we have exceeded them right now, and we're continuing to focus on how do we continue to get people out of their cars into the system. And that's on-time performance. What we're trying to do on the subways, we're seeing strong on-time performance on the commuter rail side. Early on, it needed to be improved. They worked very hard to get it to where we are now at 93.17% last year. And that's based on a 5-minute on-time performance within the schedules. I will say that we are holding ourselves to a higher level than many of the commuter rail agencies across the country. MTA does it at 5 minutes and 59 seconds, and others are the same comparably. So this 93.17 is actually holding us to a higher level of on-time performance, which I'm really proud of the team for being able to do that. And that's why I believe ridership has improved on commuter rail. People know they can rely on it and they can take it. I wanted to show this slide because it shows how each of our lines are performing. You can see Lowell and Fairmount are 2 of our highest performing. Others are performing within the range of the high 80s, 89% to 95%. We know that we have work to do on the others, and we're really focused on that. And I wanted to highlight a little bit of what we're doing on Fitchburg and Middleborough. Middleborough, we are working right now on improving the signals. That will help us improve on-time performance, Middleborough. But Fitchburg is one, if we recall back in September, we had the storms that had the washout at Leominster. And one of the things we're doing here is we're piloting risk-based evaluation. We're doing this pilot on the Gloucester branch, but this will allow us to take a look at our assets, the vulnerability of the assets, particularly to these types of weather events, and to help us make decisions moving forward on how to prioritize capital investments to mitigate, prevent, or monitor these types of potential occurrences. The image on the left shows a pilot that we have over on the Fitchburg route as well. Those devices there have helped us to manage slope erosion and impacts. That's what ultimately led to the undermining of the commuter rail. But these are the types of devices that we're going to use to help us manage decisions going forward, but also operation daily as perhaps as storm events continue to occur. Again, we're focused on not resting on our laurels, but making sure that we continue to see how we can improve, even though commuter rail is performing very strongly. I also want to say that the public feedback that we get is instrumental to how we continue to make sure we're listening to our riders and we're taking action where we can. Last month, a gentleman by the name of Peter came in to talk about people being dropped off at Nubian and not being able to know if where they were dropped off is where they should be picked up. Since that time, the team has gone out. They've evaluated where we need to improve. These signs were installed to show where to board. The next component, which I hope to have, I think they're being fabricated now, is the wayfinding signs within the station. So when you're dropped off, it'll direct you to these different locations. And I really want the public to know we are listening. We have a lot of competing needs, but where we can make improvements, that is our ultimate goal, and their voices are not going unheard. So just wanted to kind of highlight that. So thank you very much to the public for taking the time to come in and share their thoughts, whether it's here or in other means. Something else, a lot of efforts have gone on. Customer experience and employee experience team led by Danny Levy just received acknowledgement from APTA, the American Public Transportation Association. And we talk about trying to restore ridership and bring riders back. Over 800 applications across the country, and the T was recognized for this advertisement, this promotion to increase ridership. It's the Wally Takes the T. It was an engaging, fun opportunity with the Red Sox. We thank them for their partnership. I thank the team for the efforts. And it's not just the customer experience and employee experience team, but it's the whole agency that has to participate in these types of events. So I want to just acknowledge that. Another one at the same after was the hiring on the go and hiring on the spot. Something that I don't think I mentioned earlier, one of the visits I had was with the APTA Transit CEO conference, where it was strictly leaders across transit agencies. And one of the things there was listening to other agencies' challenges with workforce. Some of the things that we did over last year, our best practices, hiring on the go, hiring on the spot, was acknowledged by APTA. Again, over 800 applications. And that obviously has led to our ability to start rebuilding our workforce and focus on one of our most important assets, because without the workforce, it's going to be very hard to deliver the service that we do. So this was really great to see acknowledgement by our peers for the efforts that have been here. And again, thank you to the governor, the administration, and the legislature for the dollars in the fiscal year 24 budget that allowed us to be aggressive and to rebuild the workforce. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about, as we rebuild the workforce, and Jabez Rojas, head of our DEI group, will talk a little bit more. But we're really proud of our workforce, the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we support. Over 1/3 of our workforce is Black, African American, and that's something where it exceeds our goals. We know we have other areas that we need to continue to work on, where we have not fully gone to the levels that we want to be, but we are committed to that, and we're committed to our workforce. We know their safety, their well-being, and their love of public service is important, and we need to make sure that they're in an environment that they know management and their supervisors collectively, we're all in it together, and we appreciate them really well. So I think with that, I'm going to close and see if there's any questions to take.
Any questions for the general manager?
I am. So I find it incredibly ironic that our commuter rail has, exceeded expectation. It has incredible service, and we had members from the union here saying that they're not being treated well. So I hope it's something that we really take a serious look at. When you have that level of performance, you want to make sure your staff is I know this isn't your staff, but you want to make sure the staff is well cared for. So I just wanted to emphasize that. It's really ironic to hear this, that they're outperforming and then they're not being taken care of.
No, absolutely. We value them, and while they're working for Keolis is our partner as well, and they're our workforce. We consider them all in one. We're all the T. And we understand there's a negotiation that's ongoing, but we are fully supportive of workforce, the importance of workforce, and we'll stay on top of that and understanding there's a balance, but we're thankful for what the teams are doing right over there.
Yeah. And then my second thing is just kudos to you and your team. I think last month I was pretty frustrated that there was not good communication in terms of closures. And, we saw lots of really good examples of the T coordinating with, the city government, with City of Boston, with Brookline, anywhere where you had the green line closures. And I think it really made a difference for people. So thanks for being responsive and really leaning into making sure that residents and people that were riding the T knew what the options were, particularly sort of folks that are commuting. So they got real-time feedback and they got advanced feedback, and there was lots of coordination on the local level. So kudos to your team. So thank you for
Well,
that.
thank you. And we know with each one of these diversions, we're evaluating how we do, and we're looking to continue to implement those practices and find ways that we can be better. Each diversion has different communication needs, different alternative service needs, and early on in each one of these, we're adjusting those very first few days. Even was it last Monday, President's Week, where we observed the light travel day. We did see some crowding during the rush hours. I thank Ryan Caholen and the operations team for going out and making adjustments and having extra trains stationed so we can roll them out when we saw the need. And even on the red line, adjustments on how trains would platform at Alewife to improve the cycle of the train. So we know with each one of these diversions, because we haven't done, in many cases, these before, there's a learning curve for us. The public has been really patient with us, and I thank them for that. And that's why we're so focused on delivering the results we've promised them. But thank you for that feedback on the communication.
I just wanted to echo Director Skelton Roberts' remarks and congratulating you. The reduction in speed restrictions is impressive, and I know you're eating this elephant piece by piece, and I appreciate your hard work and listening. Nubian Square, that signage is important, and it went a long way, so thank you.
Well, it's the whole team, but thank you. I thought maybe, just real quickly, if it's all right, I'm going to ask Jeff Cook, he's our acting CAO, to just introduce himself. He may have introduced himself in the past as Chief Procurement Officer, but I thought it's important because earlier we acknowledged Dave Panagor, and I talked about how he's developed a strong team. Jeff has stepped in as acting CAO, and I just thought it's great for him to have a chance, 2 minutes in front of the board, to talk a little bit about himself. Come on up, please. That's what happens when I don't follow my notes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Glenn and Secretary Monica Tibbetts-Nuts and distinguished board. This is probably my second stint as CAO. Temporary. I arrived in 2018 and held the position and transferred it to David, and obviously that was a great hire because he did fantastic things here, and I enjoyed working with him. To give you a little understanding of my background, I worked for 28 years at Fidelity Investments in overseeing pieces of their real estate organization, held positions as overseeing all their global real estate and data centers. When I left in 2017, prior to that, I focused mainly on international operations and risk. So part of my background and understanding through my 28 years there is more financial, construction, vendor management, contracts, legal aspects, so a broad range of aspects that I learned there. I was lucky enough to, in that position, to sit on various boards for the city, in the city for Fidelity, such as the ABC, A Better City, the Boston Improvement District, and so on to that, and then work with our government affairs. I look forward to working directly with the GM and with the board on anything supporting. I think the board is doing a great job, and the GM is to continue to move the T forward. So I look forward to continue help in that manner. Happy to ask any questions if you have. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now Chief Safety Officer Tim Lesniak.